And welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo, and we have another interesting show for you today. We have a arts-related show about dance. We've been doing a few shows about dance in New York, and New York is probably the center of modern dance and ballet and movement in the whole United States, if not the world. So we're honored to have Caitlin Trainor here today with us, and welcome, Caitlin, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. And you're from the Trainor Dance Company, and you're premiering a trio of diverse contemporary works for the Manhattan Movement Arts Center, which is nearby here, right?
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner, right. So that's great. We're at the M&N Studios, of course, on 59th Street, and we'll give the viewers a chance to more information about the location and what's happening. But first, I want to talk about you and about what you do and about your dance company and what you're attempting to do. So maybe we should begin by telling us a little bit about the event that's upcoming.
Okay, so this is our first concert here in Midtown Manhattan. Every year we've been kind of moving up the theater food chain. So we're really excited to be at Manhattan Movement Arts Center right on 60th Street. And we're presenting a pretty diverse program. We have one piece that's called Courant, and it's set to Caroline Shaw's music, Pulitzer Prize winning music. And it's the music is all vocal, and it's very physical in that sense. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of different sound qualities. The music's very exhilarating, and the movement's very kind of percussive and kind of animalistic and wild in a way. And then I will be doing a solo with a projection of images taken by the dance photographer and portrait artist Paul B. Good. He's been an amazing collaborator, and the projection serves as kind of a partner for me to dance with the projected imagery and what I'm doing in the space. It creates a world that I am inhabiting in a sense. And the third piece is kind of this big celebratory classical music dance with huge silk skirts, colors, and a lot of like just movement of silk and skirt and imagination and musicality. And in a way it feels almost radical to do a piece that's so dancey in a neoclassical way in New York City in 2014.
Oh, cool. We'll be seeing a video in a minute about that and give folks the opportunity to identify what you're saying, which is very interesting. So yeah, I watched a few of the videos before I came, and they were very interesting, and I'm looking forward to showing them. We're going to be showing one in a minute. When is this happening?
So this is December 4th through 6th, next week.
Again, yeah.
That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, all at 7:30. And again, it's at Manhattan Movement Arts Center.
And how can people get tickets?
trainordance.org.
Okay, great. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Caitlin. How long have you been, when did you decide you wanted to be a dancer and a choreographer?
Well, it's actually a good question. In a way, I decided at a very young age, and as life kind of brings in reality, that went way off the radar. Some of my earliest kind of sweet memories are of just listening to my father's classical music in the kitchen and dancing. I put on my favorite nightgown for this event as a very young child, and I have kind of very acute memories of that and of making my dolls dance.
Where did you grow up?
In Rhode Island, in a little town called Scituate.
Okay.
Yep.
And your dad was a classical?
My dad was a professor of philosophy.
Okay.
Who enjoyed classical music, and so
listening to it.
On weekend mornings, he would do his work and read and listen, and I was.
Right. And so you loved classical music, and you grew up in a classical music environment, or?
It was there. I don't know that I thought about it very much. It was just on, and I think it moved me, and it wasn't a very conscious process at that age. So you went on
eventually to study dance?
Well, yes, and it was a bit of a circuitous route to becoming a dancer. So when I was a teenager and middle school, I was exposed to some dance, at the local dance studio. Sure. And a lot of that was jazz and ballet, and I knew that I didn't fit into either of those modes very well. For a lot of reasons, psychologically, physically, dance, ballet.
Smoke.
I didn't smoke.
I hope you use that joke a lot. Sorry.
So, yeah, I didn't quite fit the mold of either form very well. You know, I mean, what I saw for jazz in popular culture was solid gold, bringing it back.
Oh, beautiful. So you like R&B?
Yeah, yeah, and then the head spins.
Okay.
The dance, like I knew I wasn't that girl,
Right.
and I knew I wasn't the ballet girl either. So I, you know, got away from the idea of ever being a professional dancer, thinking, you know, there's no role for me in that world. And then in college, I actually transferred. I began school at Providence College and transferred schools because I was craving a more diverse environment. And knowing very little about the school, I showed up at Skidmore College and took a dance class with a woman named Deborah Fernandez, who became my teacher, my mentor, and it was kind of love at first class. And I declared dance as a major.
Okay, wow.
A little bit to the horror, I think, of the powers that be in the department, because most of the women in the department had much more experience, much more training, a classical underpinning, and I was just like kind of
just
really enthusiastic.
Right, great.
But it was just, it was like an immediate and total commitment to the art form as soon as I was exposed to her, and she's still my teacher and my friend and my mentor, and so as soon as I found it, I just haven't stopped.
Great.
And over time, I wouldn't say that you catch up, because there are things that you can learn as a child that you can't learn as an adult, but in a way, that's been an advantage for me, because movement invention is easier when you don't have all of those pathways automatically in your body of what you should do.
Being trained in a class.
Right. Oh, my leg should go here. It goes here. This is the position. This is the shape. My body's like, oh, maybe it's here. And so there's invention like inherent to that unpredictability, I guess, of and less formed
Well,
body.
you know, we have a video queued up, so why don't we go and watch a couple of minutes of a video of some of the dance that you choreograph and do, and then we'll talk about that afterwards. We'll have something
Sounds
visual
great.
to look at. That's what TV's for. So let's go to the video and check it out. All right, Caitlin Trainor, thank you for that. And that's you, of course.
Me.
Yeah, I could tell. And you can tell your hair. You have beautiful hair, big hair. And so interesting. Tell us a little bit about that piece. It was called, it's white, right?
So the air turned white,
The Air
and it
Turned
was a
White.
collaboration with film and sound artist Maria Nero. The piece obviously has a projection on the stage, and I'm dancing, and the way the piece is illuminated creates, there's the live dancer, me, and then there's a shadow of my body, and then there's the projection also of my body. And so I have kind of two tracks of work. I have large-scale group pieces that I don't dance in, and then solo work that is a little more autobiographical, it's more personal, and it tends to be a little more expressionistic. So this, of course, was in the latter category. And when I'm working on solos, I often have an element with which I interact in the way that I would a partner or fellow dancers. So in that case, it was the projection. And, I'd been working on that material for a long time, and, the simple concept was about like folding and flipping joints and creating inevitability. Like if I move my hand this way, what has to happen next, in a sense related to gravity and kind of collapse. So I was working with that, and I think on some level the feeling of confinement, of pushing against surfaces, the floor, the wall, and looking where the boundaries are. So it was abstract in the way of I didn't have a narrative thread, but the feeling of confinement, I think, is something that subconsciously I grapple with a lot.
Is this piece going to be in the performance?
No, I have a new piece with projection to the photographs by Paul B. Good.
So you'll be, you have a group that you're dancing with, but you'll be dancing your own piece
Correct.
as well by yourself, a solo piece at some point?
Yes, so there will be 2 group works, and in the middle of the sandwich is my solo with the projections by Paul, and that is a self-portrait, that piece. Paul's images, when I've worked with Paul, he uses a mirror, and the images create kind of a strange abstraction where there's maybe 2 of me or a mirror image of the building. And so I was playing with this kind of idea of how do you dance a self-portrait, and yet it's also in collaboration with a fellow artist, and the music is going to be composed by Scott Killian, who's amazing. So the idea of a self-portrait but done in collaboration with other artists is what that piece will be.
Great. So all right, and that'll be the central to the 2 group pieces at both of the bookends, you said.
Exactly.
Great. And so this is going to be, let's reintroduce
December
it.
4th through 6th, Manhattan Movement Arts Center. Tickets
on
at
60th Street, right?
Yes, 60th Street,
Okay.
between 10th and 11th. And the tickets are at trainordance.org.
Right. Okay, great. And people can go to trainordance.org to learn more about it, to see the videos we've just been showing, and to as well get the tickets and come in. We can't see the price, but they're very reasonable.
Very reasonable.
For a performance like this, that's when a lot of people are involved, a lot went into it, obviously.
Yes, dance always operates at a loss. So the ticket prices, we try to make them very reasonable so that the program is very accessible, and the money all goes into the work.
And how do you support this through grants, basically? Right?
You know, actually, so small modern dance companies are kind of the redheaded stepchild of the arts, right? And our, most dance companies of our scale make the majority of their budget, 80 to 90%, through private donation, and we are in keeping with that statistic. So it's actually one-on-one relationships with donors who look at the work and say, hey, we really support what you're doing. We believe in you.
So there's donors who have money, who love dance and want to support dance.
Right, and some of it's small-scale donors. We have lots of donors who give $20, and we appreciate all of those donors. And we're a nonprofit organization, so everything's tax deductible. And we have kind of our angel donors who are sustainers and allow us to be at this great theater. And we have all kinds of people who are our friends.
Tell us a little bit about the theater, because we've heard so much about the location, but I would tell us what's like inside the theater. What's so good about it?
Okay, so yeah, the theater matters. It's a black box, and what that means is it's just a basic theater. It's not a huge proscenium stage. The audience gets to be fairly close to us, but far enough away to really see the composition of the work. For me, space is a really important element.
It's sort of like looking at a painting in a museum. It's better to be able to stand back and see it rather than get real close.
Yeah, and they kind of have both. They're close enough to see the sweat on the dancers and to feel what we are feeling, and to have that kinesthetic empathy that you have.
Skidding on the floor of the wood.
Yeah,
I like
the kind
that
of
sound.
Yeah, you will hear, actually, a neat thing is you hear the sound of the silk billowing. The dancers are wearing. Our costumer David Quinn made these gorgeous silk skirts and jewel tones. They come up really high on the waist, and they're literally a circle skirt. And when the dancers are moving, they toss the skirts, and you hear. And it's just, I think, in these kind of digital times where nothing's, almost so many sounds are recorded, it's so satisfying to have live performance, interaction through body-to-body communication. I feel like dance is more relevant than ever in that way, that we need to have that kind of interaction with each other. And the sound, the skirts, the live performance is part of that.
That's what I thought when I was watching it earlier today, and I'm looking forward to showing the next video, and I hope it's the one I think it is. It'll be great. Matter of fact, maybe we'll go to the next video and take a look at it now, because I think that's sort of, you've explained it, so I hope it's the right one, so let's go to it.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
You give me your love so sweetly tonight. The light of love is in your eyes. But will you love me tomorrow?
Caitlin Trainor, thank you for that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And were those any of the performances that folks would be seeing if they went this weekend, or those other ones?
Those are actually from last year's show.
Uh-huh.
This year's performance that includes 2 premieres, and so we do not have footage from any of those yet.
Cool. So you have to go to the
You have to go to
on
see
December
it.
4th, 5th, and 6th, right?
Yes, at 7:30 at M.F.A, which is Manhattan Movement Arts. On 60th Street.
Right here between 10th and 11th Avenue, right behind where we are today, right now.
You got
a
it.
block away, right? Great. And is that the same location that was in that video, or does
That's actually Riverside Church, which is up
really?
near Columbia
Cool.
University area.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. So you do Riverside Church has a dance stage?
Riverside Church actually has an old historic theater inside that a lot of the modern dance greats were performing at in the 70s and 80s. And the theater is kind of up and coming again. And so that's where our show was last year.
Okay, great. All right. So again, we know where it's going to be and when it's going to be, and you can get more information by going to Carolyn Trainor.
It's trainordance.org.
Trainordance.org. Trainordance.org, and to get more information. Great. So, all right, tell us a little bit about what we saw.
Okay, so the first piece that you saw there was called Talk Radio.
Yeah, I love the name, by the way.
Yeah, apropos.
And I heard the talk radio, right? Yeah, great.
So at the very beginning of that, you heard actually the soundscape is a compilation of text and songs from the 1980s, and all the text is comprised of phone calls to relationship radio shows from the 1980s. When I was a child growing up in Rhode Island, I used to tune my clock radio at night to listen to Dr. Ruth and Delilah and these kind of radio shows. And I think, people were calling in with romantic dilemmas. And there was a sincerity to their inquiries. And of course, as a child, I was so curious and didn't even understand a lot of what they were talking about. So I acquired footage of those conversations from the 80s, strung it together, and create a series of romantic, imagined vignettes. So with,
Great.
woman dancing about sexual boredom. What do I do,
Well, I like
Dr. Ruth?
that. The first time I saw kissing in a dance performance.
They kiss for 2 minutes and dance the entire time with their mouths connected.
I saw that. That was amazing. I was wondering about that. That's great. And, to me, it's so apropos to the time we're living in now, especially in the last couple of days, with what's happening in Ferguson and everything. And to see that kiss is, better than anything that Uhura and Captain Kirk ever did, because that was great. All right. So what's the message of that then? Is
that
there a
particular
message?
piece?
Yeah. Do you have a message? Do you have any message pieces?
I think so that it's a little variable. I mean, that piece in particular, I kind of haggled with the question of, okay, am I going to give this a happy ending of romantic bliss, or do we leave these relationships a bit dissatisfied and open-ended? And the very final part of the first video, we call it the never put down duet, where the male dancer is literally physically supporting the female for 2.5 minutes. And it looks so romantic, and it's, so sustained, and it looks like it's from a dream. But what you didn't see on the video is that after he puts her gently down and lays her down, that she, and this is how the piece closes, she walks over and steps on him and leaves. So that's how I chose to finish that piece.
Great, wonderful. And I love the dress she was wearing. That was beautiful colors.
Well, those were actually created by Christian Seriano,
Wow.
a fashion designer, and
Sure.
he styled that entire piece, which we had a great time working with him. And that was also the case for the duet of the dancer Caitlin Gilliland and myself. She's trained as a classical ballerina, and I'm actually working with her now. Not only did I work with her on the duet that you just saw, but she'll be in this concert. And
it's so much when you do a dance performance. I mean, you're talking about music, multimedia, computers, the dance, the choreography, the all these, the costumes, everything. It seems to be quite a lot of people involved.
it is, and the logistics are actually the hardest
part. Are you
part.
buried in administrative logistic? How do you handle all that? I mean, to me, that would be like
It's a challenge.
And then to also practice and rehearse and all these things.
It's the greatest challenge of what we do. I mean,
Most of the time you're on the phone, like, where's my, right?
It's hard. It's really hard. Dance, we are extremely lucky to be in New York, where there are so many amazing artists. But from a financial and economic perspective, it's not a hospitable locale for creativity. It's extremely vital and vibrant in terms
everything's
of
expensive.
artistry. Yes, and dance is a very expensive art form to produce, yet has probably the least funding next to poetry, maybe. But for poetry, you need a computer.
Yeah, poets come on the show too.
Right. But for dance, you need space, you need people, you need bodies, you need music, you need lights. It is a complex equation, and it's a passion project, and it's an art, and it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't have material value, and yet it, feels vitally important to me, and I hope
is the internet and being able to video and put things on YouTube like we were just watching, or whatever, Vimeo or whatever it is, it sort of gives a little permanence to something that often was just a performance that was done and it's over, right? The audience saw it and nobody else saw it.
For me, I think lots of dance artists have a different relationship to video. For me, the live performance is the true experience of the work, and the video is a sort of dim reflection of what that was, in the way that a phone call to a partner is really different than visiting in person.
Sure.
So it's really meant to be received. My work is meant to be received live, but it's good to kind of say, oh, it's that kind of work. And for us, as a tool in the studio, it's infinitely helpful because we can better document details.
So you have to see dance. So you're saying is that if you really want to get the effect, you have to be sitting there in the audience and see it live, right up close.
It's like the difference between watching a cooking show and eating the food.
Very good. That's very interesting. Okay, so a good reason to come. And so again, this is going to be coming up December 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yes.
At the I forget the names of all these Manhattan Movement Arts Center, 248 West 60th Street, New York City. You can get there on the 1ABCD to 59th Street. Hey, that's how you get here. Wait a second, the same place. And you can get information at your website, which is
trainordance.org.
Trainordance.org, Trainor dance.org. And the tickets are quite reasonable. All right, last couple of minutes, Caitlin Trainor, tell us what you got in the works. I mean, I guess you're not thinking of the future, you're thinking of now, but tell us maybe what direction you'd like to go in after this. What's next?
You know, it's funny. In every process, I get to a point where I say, like, I need to scale back. I need a break. This is too much, because it is a lot administratively and so on. Even though I'm really, really fortunate to have a lot of people making this thing go and happen. Anyway, I am starting to percolate ideas for the future, and I have one piece that is sort of deep in the back of the mind that I would like to start bringing forward, which is actually a story. I want to do a piece that's interactive with an audience, but is more autobiographical, that I would start to tell a little bit of my family history, using film, using sound, using movement, using voice. And that will be an evening-length solo performance, I think. And with the group, I'm really excited to do a piece also using voice and text. And I think the subject is going to be about telling stories, and the interactive element with the audience is going to be that the audience will have to determine using little clickers whether these are truths or lies. And of course, this will be dancing and movement while talking, and it's going to be interactive, I think, fun. Yeah.
So would that affect what the dance would be, but depending on how they click the clicker?
Exactly. So I've been playing with that.
So you'd never be able. Each audience would see something different, right?
Precisely. And I've been working on an interactive solo based on a lexicon of movement, with each letter of the alphabet representing a different movement. So the audience calls out to me as a live performer, A, Q, L, and I have to respond immediately. So I've been playing with interactivity.
Wow, cool. So that'll be the future of dance, interactivity. Wonderful. All right, thank you very much, Caitlin Trainor, for joining us. And we'll all try and get to the Manhattan Movement Arts Center on December 4th, 5th, and 6th, 7:30 p.m. And see your show, because it was a great show. Thank you very much. See you next.